Hey guys, Rich from Rich Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well, and we're going to take a look at the brand new Errata cards for Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, as a lot of you know, they were my first love in Marvel Crisis Protocol, and I'm super stoked to see what changes we've got to the cards. Well, let's start then with Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, the lone leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and let's take a quick look at his character card. So as we can see, he has remained on his defensive and the rest of his stats exactly the same. So 3s across the board. He's got 6 stamina on his healthy side and 5 stamina on his injured side. He's still a medium move, he's still a size 2, and he's still a 3 threat. I don't think we're going to see any threat changes to any of these characters as they release more and more errated cards. Also remaining exactly the same are his element gun and also his full auto spender, but it's the winging it, arguably the worst leadership ability in the entire game, that has had some big changes made to it. 3 changes in fact. So let's start off with the very first one, which is how these tokens are actually gained. So in the past, you had to spend a tactics card at the beginning of the round. Now you don't have to spend anything whatsoever to gain access to the winging it tokens. Now the winging it tokens work in exactly the same way, that it can be used to re-roll a dice during the attack, defense or dodge rolls, but the way that they're distributed has also changed slightly as well. So whereas in the past you could only give all of the tokens to a single character, you can now choose up to 3 characters to give a token to, and why would you not? You may as well dish these out to 3 of your allies, one of them being Star-Lord himself. You can obviously give him one as well, and then each of them can use that winging it token in whatever role they see fit. The last change to his leadership ability then is when we actually spend these tokens. Now, if you remember way back when the Guardians were one of the affiliations that were nerfed somewhat by the new changes to when power and things are spent for rerolls, well, that's been completely errated once again, and you now spend the tokens during the modified dice step. So it means that if you're the attacker, you're going to see all of the dice. If you're the defender, you're going to see all of the dice, including all of the crits and anything else. So give you a much better picture as to whether or not it's worth spending a token. So what do we think of these changes? Well, I am a huge fan of them. Super stoked that they've got rid of the tactics cards. I know me and Quinn had a different approach to it, where maybe Star-Lord could recycle a card back in or something like that. I think this is much cleaner, and essentially that is giving out 6 rerolls every single turn, because with each winging it token you can reroll up to 2 dice. Now you do have to spend it once, so you can spend half a token or anything like that, but you spend it once to reroll up to 2 dice. But the fact that you've got that flexibility for it to be attack, defense or dodge rolls makes these far more valuable than the Wakanda rerolls or any of the other rerolls that the other affiliations have. So I think this is going to have a huge ripple effect across the whole of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and a little bit like the Green Goblin's leadership change, will just raise the bar for everybody else within that team as well. Carrying on then with Star-Lord's card, he's got a brand new superpower. Now I always found it strange that for somebody who was a gem bearer, and in particular a power gem bearer, that he had almost nothing to spend that power on. Yes, you could spend it on full auto and potentially tactics cards, but now he's got something to actually spend that power on, and that is hit and run. It's going to work in exactly the same way as every other version of hit and run that we've seen. So it's an action, you can do it once per turn, you perform an attack of your choice followed by a movement basically. So really nice, simple and straightforward, and gives Star-Lord a lot more maneuverability around the board. So definitely a nice addition to that. Now, speaking of the power gem, my biggest concern with Star-Lord still is I don't think he's viable as a 4 threat character, especially with the new rules coming where you have to pre-assign that gem to him. I honestly don't think we're going to see him being taken as a 4 threat at all. I think he is fantastic as a 3 threat now, not very good as a 4 threat. Again, those defensive stats, that 11 stamina, just isn't enough for him to be a viable 4 threat character. But overall, really happy with these changes. Winging It is back on the menu, boys, and I think we're going to see some fantastic Guardians of the Galaxy team play moving forward. So next on to the deadliest woman in the galaxy, Gamora. Now, as me and Quinn covered in our video, the problem with Gamora was she was just a glass cannon. 3s across the board and 5 stamina on her front and back. Yes, she could dish out the damage, but at a 4 threat character, she was way below the curve in terms of defensive tech, but also just general defensive stats and stamina as well. So the first thing that we can see is that on both her healthy and injured side, we've gone from 5 stamina to 6 stamina, which is good. Her other stats remain the same, so we're still 3s across the board and still a long move. And her 2 attacks, both Godslayer and Cosmic Assassin, remain exactly the same as well. Each of her other superpowers also remain the same, so Assassin Leap, Martial Prowess, and Deadliest Woman in the Galaxy. Now, I'd have really liked to have seen Assassin's Leap move from a short to a medium, but I kind of get that a character on a long movement already, that may have been too much. But she also gains the innate ability of stealth, so making her that much harder to target at distance. However, I still think Gamora needs a little bit more. Even with that 1 extra stamina and with stealth, she's still very, very susceptible to every kind of attack. Personally, I'd have liked to have seen her have at least 1 additional physical defensive point, taking her from 3 to 4. Because yes, while she's the deadliest woman in the galaxy, I always see that the physical defense is not just how hard you can take a hit, but it's everything else that you can do as well. So being able to parry blows and that sort of thing. So will we see a lot more play with Gamora? I think we'll definitely see more. And again, that ripple effect of the Winging It tokens will definitely help her out with things like the Pierce on Cosmic Assassin. But I still don't think she's good enough when you compare her to the upper echelon of the S+ tier 4 threats that we've got in the game. So on to my favourite duo next then in the entire game, and that is Rocket and Groot. Now, the idea behind these 2 characters was really that Groot was supposed to be able to stand there, take all the hits, shield his mate Rocket, while Rocket as a 2 threat character was dishing out a huge amount of damage. However, very, very quickly after release, the play around came in to work around this dynamic duo, and it just became so easy to take one, if not both of them out of the game. So they definitely needed some changes. So the first change then for Groot is that we can see his strike has gone from a range 2 to a range 3, which I think is really good because it means there's a lot more viability now that he can be stood within range of Rocket and yet still within range to do something in the game as well. Because that was one of the problems, that you kept him back and he just couldn't do anything else other than shield Rocket, and all people would do is pick him up and throw him, and we'll move into that a little bit later on when we see Rocket's cards. Now, as well as a buff on his strike, I think because that he's now going to have access to a lot more power because of that extra range on his strike, Living Plant and that healing ability he has been adjusted down to once per turn, so he can't take 2 or 3 hits and be on 1 health left and heal himself back up to full. He can only do that once per turn, but it's still a very, very good healing ability that he's got. So on to his partner in crime, Rocket Raccoon, and we'll see that all of his defensive stats and everything else have remained exactly the same. His 2 attacks have remained exactly the same, but we can see some difference in his superpowers. So in addition to Groot's range 3 strike up from range 2, we can see that Personal Bodyguard, which is the ability that allows Groot to bodyguard for Rocket, has moved from a range 1 up to a range 2, giving much more usability out of this ability, also meaning that you can potentially stick them either side of pieces of terrain so that you can reduce the chance of throws and that kind of thing. Although with the next superpower that we can see, Rocket has just had a huge upgrade when it comes to being stood next to his buddy Groot, and that is a brand new keyword that we've seen, which is Nimble. So nimble, this character does not suffer damage from collisions. So whether that's being terrain thrown at him, whether that is colliding into another allied character, or indeed what we used to see a lot, another allied character colliding in with him, he's not going to take any damage whatsoever. And he still has that small stature so that he does benefit from cover as well. I really, really like this pairing. I always saw these two characters being played together. And it's such a shame that really they became so unviable together. Rocket saw a lot of play very, very early on, and is still seen in a lot of lists. You know, if you want a long range 2-threat damage dealer, he's really your only option. And he's got some damage output, you know, that's the same as some sort of 3 or even 4-threat characters, but being able to have Groot by his side now makes it a much more viable partnering, and I'm super excited to get these guys back on the board. So what do I think overall? I think the positives are the leadership ability was sorted. It really, really needed an overhaul. And I think what they've done is clean, makes it really simple, straightforward, just 3 tokens every turn, give them to whoever you want, and they can use them whenever they want. Really, really like that. Really, really happy with it. Hit and run on Star-Lord is okay. It gives him some additional maneuverability. I still don't think there's anything in his card though that makes him a viable 4-threat character with the power gem, so I would have liked to have seen something else from that. Gamora, the deadliest woman, yes, giving her the extra 1 stamina is nice, but I still don't think there's enough in there to make her no longer a glass cannon. You know, 1 damage is almost neither here nor there on both sides. And the fact that, yes, she has got stealth, but even so, still not super impressed with her as a 4-threat character. 3s across the board for a 4-threat character is not good. And yes, if somebody's in range 2, she can up that on some of the attacks by 2. But even so, just not good enough for me. You know, I would have liked to have seen something else on her to just make her that little bit more viable. I am, however, super happy with the pairing of Groot and Rocket. Absolutely love these guys. They were, you know, my first loves in this game, as I've mentioned, and I think what they can now do together, plus that combination of winging it tokens from Star-Lord, I can really see those 3 being the absolute core of any Guardians of the Galaxy squad that you're going to be putting out there. So really happy with those 2. There are, however, a couple of characters missing. Now, Nebula is one that I don't think needed anything doing with her whatsoever. I also don't think that Ronan needed anything doing with him either. Angela, as we know, is an absolute powerhouse. We may or may not see some changes on her when the Asgards come out. But Drax for me was in desperate need of something else from a mobility perspective. So a little bit sad that we didn't see anything from there. I believe this is the only update to the Guardians of the Galaxy. I might be wrong, but I'd have really liked to have seen something on Drax. But you know, we've got Rocket, we've got Groot, we've got Star-Lord, and I think we could see another spam list coming to the forefront. We had Sim spam, we've got Sam spam. I think Star-Lord is going to have something to say about that, and I think we could really see those wide Guardians of the Galaxy squads coming into the forefront. So yeah, super happy to get those on the table. Can't wait to get the official cards through so we can start using them in tournaments and other such things as well. So yeah, we'll have to see how they play on the tabletop. Guys, a quick reminder for everyone that we have 2 things happening at the moment. We've got our Hulkbuster giveaway. Head down in the description below. You'll see a link to a video as to how you can win a brand new Hulkbuster. But I wanted to remind everybody we have our charity stream at the end of the month. 27 hours, 18 games back to back against 18 players from around the globe. It's going to be crazy. We've got some amazing giveaways from the sponsors of the channel, or the sponsors of the event, sorry. Everything from vouchers to very, very hard to find sets, through to a Dormammu. We've got some tokens to give away, lots and lots of prizes to give away. So make sure you join us on the 28th, 29th of October for that happening. And also down in the description below, you'll find a link to my Just Giving page, as this is a charity event. It's all in aid of Candlelighters Charity. So if you could go down and click on that link, make a donation. Every dollar, pound, euro makes a big, big difference. Or if you can't afford to give anything, that's absolutely fine. Just turn up on the day. Make sure you watch those adverts, because we're turning monetization on for the event and actually on for the whole of October, because any revenue we make from monetization for the month of October, I'll be donating directly as well as part of that Just Giving page. Guys, as always, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.